Hey guys, and welcome back to Castle Crush, and today we are going to be talking about how to clear Castle 7 in Castle Crush, the Angelic Temple, how to get past that to Castle 8. Now, these decks were created by the player Patrick from Genesis Evolving. Now they're called Apex, and Patrick is a pretty experienced player here. They've had the Legend rank, and they have a lot of cards that are maxed out here. A lot of stickers won, so they're a very experienced player. So the deck we will be using today for Castle 7 is a rushing deck with Reaper and Protection. We have some other cards in here. Obviously, Standard Bear. We have Rage, Storm Elemental, which is a legendary card, so not everyone may have a Storm Elemental, but you could replace that with another card. The most key cards, obviously, are going to be Reaper, probably Protection, and Standard Bearer. Some of the other cards you can definitely swap around if you want to. So, Mythical Chest here. As you can see, we got a legendary card. It is Archer Queen. Wow, okay. See, I'd gotten that one just from playing a match, so you can get Mythical Chests just from playing the game and get legendary cards out of them. That was not one I bought. That was one the game actually just randomly gave to me. Doesn't happen very often. I only seem to get one like once a year, or every 6 months. So let's get into this deck right away. Really, you might say right off the bat, okay, I have a higher castle level than these players. Yes, I did have to drop a lot of trophies here, but for rushing decks, card levels don't matter as much as how well you can time and make plays and put the correct cards in the correct spot matters. That's the most important thing with rushing decks. It's a timing-based strategy. You can see right there, I was able to just kind of dodge around what my opponent was doing. So what I like to do, one of the key things is really to kind of be patient with your standard bearers. Right off the bat, I often like to play things in different lanes. That way I can watch and see where my opponent is going to respond. And it makes it harder for them to know where I'll respond. And see, I waited for them to commit a little bit. They put some cards down. Often right after they play a card, especially a more expensive card, can be a good time to swap lanes, because that means your opponent won't have the mana to counter your standard bearer move as quickly. So I like to wait for them to kind of commit a little bit, and then I swap lanes, especially if they, try to, play something that might be key to stopping you. Then that's a good time to swap, because they won't have that to counter. That's also a good time to play your Reaper. If you can get them to play something like an Inferno, or do they have Inferno in this castle level? But any sort of thing that might be dangerous to the Reaper. See, my opponent here is a Reaper, so I just focus on blocking them a little bit, just to give myself, any extra time advantage you can get is helpful. And then I use the Blizzard, which is also a pretty key card in this deck. You can use it to stop your opponent's rush, like I did right there, freezing the Reaper, which, with rushing decks, every second is critical, especially if your opponent is rushing in one lane and you're rushing in another lane. Anything you can do. If you're playing with a Gust of Wind, some decks might have a Gust of Wind. You could use that as well, but Blizzard is pretty good. You can see right here, I end up losing the Storm Elemental. Kind of a bad situation off the start. The Storm Elemental is weak when you first play it, but it becomes better over time. There's the Inferno. This one was tough. I got put in a bad situation right off the start here in this match, having to make a decision about what I wanted to do. I decided to try and go in the same lane here, and it's not looking particularly good. But I kind of stick with it, and I'm like, well, if we can rage, we might be able to do something here. I don't have a card I can block that mage with. That's probably the biggest problem, so I try to block it. Man, we're getting close. I'm trying to block every hit that I can. It's very close. Just a little too late. But it goes to show, even if you look like you're really defeated, you can still try to come back with rushing decks. That's the beauty of them, and that is why every time I see a player in a really high castle who's way under leveled for that castle, they're almost always using a rushing deck. And it's because, again, it's really timing based, less troop level based or card level based. If you're really good at timing the rushing deck, you can get through, especially Castle 7, really easily. A lot of players in this castle level didn't seem to have a clue what I was doing. They seemed really clueless about it. That person tried to play the meteor, but protection, you're good to go. And in that situation, I didn't even have the Reaper played, and I was still in pretty good shape. So you can work with, again, multiple archers and have enough damage that way with rage. You can have the Reaper with protection and rage. You can have the Storm Elemental with rage. Just give the Storm Elemental some time. So let's take another look here. We'll need to swap lanes on this one. I end up swapping behind the dwarf there just to confuse them a little bit more. We're going to start a second push as well. See, now we got 2 lanes. And we can rage in both lanes. It's going to be hard for them to stop this push without in arrows. And it's already too late. Again, a lot of these matches, it's not down to card levels. It has more to do with me getting the Reaper to their castle with something blocking or with protection on it and using rage. That's the ideal scenario with this deck, is you want to have Standard Bearer, Reaper, protection, and rage. But you don't necessarily need rage. Reaper's pretty strong on its own. You can also have Reaper behind Dwarf can be really good as well. So here, my opponent also rushing. Let's see what we do to try and stop this. My Reaper has a damage advantage in this one, actually. They get... Yeah, they got a meteor in there, but protection saved us, as well as me having higher castle health. That does help. Can't lie. It does help a bit. Now, this mage is dangerous to the Reaper. It has that area damage, splash damage. It can hit the Reaper, so don't play the Reaper into a mage. Stay away from the mage with a Reaper. But if you see them play a mage, it's less likely they're going to have one in their hand, so that probably means you're safer to play the Reaper once they've played the mage. That could be your cue to play the Reaper. Like I did right there. I have Storm Elemental in one lane, Reaper in the other lane. I don't even need to use my Standard Bearer here because I already have 2 lanes. I can tell they're not going to be able to handle both lanes, and that's all I really needed. But again, like we were talking about, oftentimes I like to play multiple lanes, and then you just wait for them to commit. But if possible, if you get 2 powerful lanes set up, oftentimes I wouldn't even bother playing the Standard Bearer. Let's see, like right here, I don't need to play the Standard Bearer. They're not going to be able to block both those lanes. Instead, I use the Blizzard to clear one lane. But they're just not able to block both of them. More experienced players, you might have to swap lanes on that. But especially in this castle level, a lot of the players are so passive with the way they're playing that they're not going to be able to clear a powerful push. So the key thing is really just, if you're struggling with this deck, I would just focus on the setup, right? Focus on getting the key cards down there. As soon as you play protection, it's instantly better because you can block Inferno, you can block Meteor without having them completely destroy what you have going on. It gives you positioning. You can also use the Reaper defensively, as you saw me do right there. You can use it to trade with another Reaper. And right here, I mean, we're good. Unless they have Gust of Wind, which we're good. We have the protection down. They tried to clear it. Swap lanes. Easy win. And there we are up to Castle 8, guys. So there was my tutorial of sorts, some tips in there on how to use a rushing deck in Castle 7. If you use this deck properly, you can go way higher than Castle 8, or way higher than Castle 7, but way higher than Castle 8 even, probably. You can get your trophies way higher. So the key really is to work on your timing, work on setting up your rush, and learning how to play your cards around your opponent committing to certain lanes so that you can have the advantage over them and get them in a position where they can't react quickly enough because they've already committed in another spot. So anyways, that's going to do it for this video. Once again, thanks to Patrick for providing this deck, and I hope that you guys can get to at least Castle 8, if not higher, with this deck. So I'll leave a like if you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you thought about this video in the comments. Have you used rushing deck successfully? And I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.